Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the UCD Sutherland School of Law's Open Evening for 2022. I'm Dr. Niamh Howlin. I'm the head of the law school and the Dean of Law, and I'm also one of the lecturers. And if you decide to join us at UCD, I'll be teaching one of the first year modules that you might take next year. So the format for this evening's webinar is that I'm going to speak to you for about 20 minutes or so, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at UCD, and I'll ask you some questions about what you think we do. And then I'm going to pass over to a panel of our students, and they're going to tell you a bit more about their perspectives of the UCD Law School, and they might have a slightly different perspective than me, and it's very important to hear what students have to say. So in the first 20 minutes, rather than just having myself speak into the void, I'm going to try and make it a bit interactive. That's what I would usually do with my own students if we were in an online lecture. So I'm going to try it with you as well. Okay, so you should be able to see on the screen in front of you a page that says join at slido.com/law. So if you have your mobile phone, or if you're looking at this on a tablet or a laptop, if you can open up a new tab and either scan the QR code that you see or enter slido.com and enter the hashtag law, we're going to use this application to make the session a little bit more interactive. Now, don't worry if you're not able to do this or if the tech fails. It's only for a few minutes and it's only a bit of fun. You don't have to participate in this way. You can still enjoy the session, even if you don't manage to do the Slido. And you can jot down your answers, or you can just look at the answers, and you'll be able to see other people's answers to the questions coming up on the screen. So it's slido.com and it's hashtag law, and you should be able to see some questions coming up on the screen. So I'm going to ask you a few questions to see what you already know about studying law, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about law school to find out what you know, and then we'll know where we're going with the discussion. Okay. And there will be a good opportunity to do question and answers at the end. Okay, so, excuse me. Okay, so my first question to you is, what do you think you do in law school? So how do you think you'll spend your time if you come to UCD to study law? So you can jot down any words or phrases that come to mind in terms of things you'll do, how you'll spend your time, and we'll see what people come up with. I'll just give a few more minutes to let a few people answer this. Okay, so lots of different things are coming up here. And yeah, okay, so lots of people are saying study the law, learn the law of Ireland. This is very true. We don't just study Irish law, but we also will teach European law and international law. I see a lot of people have written reading and legal research, and that's a really big part of being a law student. So if you're coming from a secondary school background, it's quite a shift. You don't spend as long in the classroom when you're a law student as you do as a secondary school student. You do spend a lot more time studying, going to the library, usually on your own, sometimes in a study group, and that's a big part of it. Debating and discussing. Yeah, so we do a lot of discussion in class, and then outside of class, I know that our students often get involved in very lively debates with one another, either through formal debating, through the debating societies, or just through their own discussions in study groups. People are also talking here about mock trials and mooting, and we do a bit of that sort of thing in class, and then there's a lot of that you can do as extracurricular activity. And then I can see lots of other really good things here that people have mentioned. So you do a bit about criminal law and tort and the Constitution, and you learn how to analyse cases and so on. So I think you have a very good grasp of what it is to be a law student and the kinds of things that you'll be doing. Now, one thing I'll say is nobody expects you to be able to do all of this when you first come in the door in September. So we teach you how to do all these things. So we show you how to find cases, we show you how to read them, we show you how to do legal research, teach you how to do moots and mock trials and so on. Okay. Next question. True or false, you must be really good at debating or public speaking or arguing to be a good law student. So what do you think? I'll give it a couple of minutes to let a few more people respond. There's no need to worry about getting a right or wrong answer. Okay, so a proportion of you think it's true, but most of you would say that it's false. And I would probably tend to agree with that. So some of our students are really excellent at public speaking and debating, but lots of our students aren't. They don't have an interest in that, or for various reasons, it's not something that they want to do. And it doesn't tend to hold them back. So sometimes there is a perception that law students have to be loud and argumentative and like to, pick things apart and speak in public all the time. And that's not necessarily the case. Okay. How many hours a week do you think you'll spend in class as a law student? So how many hours do you think you'll be in a classroom, whether that's in a lecture or a tutorial or a seminar? Okay, just give that another minute. Okay, so to the people who suggested 30, I think you'll be very pleased to know that it's about half of that. Okay, so on average, you spend about 15 hours a week in class. It'll vary from week to week, between 12 and 15 hours. So it's an average of about 3 hours a day. So that is, again, quite different to what you might be used to in school. That can take a little bit of getting used to. So there's a lot more prep that you do before you come to your class. There's a lot of reading you need to do afterwards. You go to the library and you look up cases. But ultimately, a lot of your time is your own, and we leave it up to students to decide how they're going to use their time. Okay, and I think most of you are in the right ballpark with that. Okay, and then the last question in this section, true or false, barristers and solicitors are the only jobs you can get with a law degree. Okay, so I think most people appreciate that that's false. And so there's a really wide range of career options that are open to you if you have a law degree. And we'll be able to discuss that a little bit more later on in the session. But our students go on to do all sorts of different things. They work for NGOs, they work in business, they travel overseas, they work in the civil service, a really, really wide range. And some do go on to be barristers or solicitors, either here or in other jurisdictions. So we do have a very good careers support service at UCD. We have a lot of talks, careers events, we have internships. So you don't need to know what you're going to do with your law degree from the outset. So we'll help you to figure it out as you go along. Okay, so now that we know that you've got a pretty good sense of what a law degree is all about, I want to ask a couple of questions about aspects of law or criminal procedure that you may have come across in the past, just to see if there are any myths that need to be busted. Okay, so true or false, there is a jury in every criminal trial. And the majority of you really know your criminal procedure already, and you've said that that's false. So even though when you watch courtroom dramas on TV, there's almost always a jury, in Ireland, the reality is that only about 1% of criminal trials have a jury. So jury trials are very much the exception and not the norm. And that's something that you would learn about when you do criminal law, criminal procedure, the law of evidence, and we also have a module on jury trials. So there are lots of different ways that you can learn more about that. Okay, here's a question about contract law. So true or false, valid contracts have to be in writing. Okay, so have a guess. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong because you do study contract law in first year. Okay, so this, you can see the answers on the screen. It's a little bit closer than the last one. So not all valid contracts have to be in writing, but some types of contract do have to be in writing in order to be considered valid. So an oral contract, so a spoken or a verbal contract between people, can still be upheld in court, and you can still go and rely on that in certain circumstances. So contract law is something that you study right at the start of first year. So you do 2 contract law modules, and then contracts are things that come up in lots of different contexts. So if you're studying company law or commercial law or competition law, you'll often find that there's a lot of contract law built into that. So you start off with the basics in first year, and it's something you can build on. And obviously, if you go on to different types of career, for example, as an in-house counsel or as a solicitor, you'll deal with a lot of contracts and a lot of transactions. So it's really an important but also a really fascinating subject in law. Okay, here's another true or false. Witnesses who are testifying in court have to swear on a Bible. So do you think that that's true or false? That you must swear on a Bible if you're giving evidence in court? Okay, so again, I can see there's quite a consensus for this one, and most of you are correct. So it used to be the case that every witness had to swear on a Bible, and everyone who was going to sit on a jury had to swear on a Bible as well. But that's not the case anymore. People can choose to make what's called an affirmation instead of swearing. So not everybody would choose to use a Bible in that context. Okay, and then the last one of these before I return to my other screen. True or false, Irish judges bang a gavel, so a little hammer, in order to call the court to order. Is that true or is it false? So do they bang a gavel? Okay, so I think about a third of you said it was true, but actually there have never been gavels used in Irish courtrooms. So that is something that does happen in the United States, and I suppose we all consume a fair amount of courtroom dramas from the United States, whether it's movies or TV shows, and we see a lot of judges banging gavels, but actually that doesn't happen in Ireland. And it just goes to show that we often have preconceptions about issues when it comes to law, whether it's a silly little thing about legal procedure or courtroom procedure like that, or a bigger, more fundamental issue. So we can't take for granted the knowledge that we bring with us. We have to question everything all the time. So you might think, oh, I've seen the hammer being banged, but you know, have I actually seen that happen in a real court situation? Okay, so I'll come out of the share for that. Okay, so I found that very interesting, and it's great to see that the next cohort of potential UCD law students are already so well informed about what it is to study law and about aspects of criminal procedure and legal procedure. Okay, so I've already welcomed you, and anyone who joined us late, again, you're very welcome. And I'm going to finish speaking about a little bit shortly after 5:20, and I'll be passing over to a panel of students. And we've looked at Slido, and we've figured out what people already know about studying law. Now, There are a few other things that I do want to mention, and I'm sure that some of these are going to be picked up on again by our student panel, and they'll talk about things in a little bit more detail. So, first of all, you're probably aware that we have quite a number of different degree programs at UCD, so you can study law on its own, or you can combine it with another discipline like business, politics, history, economics, and so on. So the panel of students that are going to speak after me are representative of several different degree programs, and they can tell you a little bit more about that. We also have quite a tradition of sending students on study abroad programs. So by UCD standards, the law school sends a really high proportion of students to study abroad, either for one trimester, which is half an academic year, or for a full year. So depending on your degree, this might form part of your degree program. So if you're studying law with Chinese or law with French or law with Irish, there's an expectation that you'll spend a period abroad. But even if you're studying law on its own or law with politics, you can choose to go to one of our partner institutions. And these are all over the place. We've quite a few in Europe, North America, Australia, Asia, and so on. So there are really fantastic opportunities for anyone who's interested in travelling. And we also have some financial support available for students who wish to study abroad. More broadly, we do have some financial supports available for students who come from a low-income background, or students who have difficulty with just paying for the everyday expenses involved with being a law student. So whether that's getting a laptop, purchasing the books, or anything else, we have quite good schemes here to help people, and we can give you more information about that as you need it. And the idea is to remove any financial barriers that students have, so that they can just concentrate on their studies and also on the fun side of university life as well, and the extracurricular. We've lovely facilities in the law school. Any of you are welcome to come in and visit us at some stage. You can book a campus tour, you can come in and see the law school building. It's a pity that we're online tonight, or we would have showed you around our lovely moot court and our study spaces, and so on. Some of the students who are speaking later might have a bit to say about that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is in relation to diversity. So we're really proud in the law school that about 1/3 of our students come from non-traditional backgrounds. So that might be people from ethnic minority, people who are the first in their family to come to college or the first to do a law degree, people with different nationalities, and people with disabilities, and so on. And the university has a lot of supports in place for diverse cohorts of students. And in the law school, we really, we really love having a diverse group of students, and it is something that we value. So if you're, thinking about UCD and you're not sure if it's right for you or if it's a good fit, I would strongly encourage you to, think further about the fact that there is a place for everybody in the law school here, and everybody is very welcome. Okay. Before I pass over to the next part of the evening, I'll point out that you can go to ucd.ie/law study undergraduate programs. You've probably been on this page already, but it's got all the information that you see here. So there's careers videos, you can look at the law brochure, you can read some student testimonials and so on. So it's quite a lot of extra information because we can't pack it all in to an hour this evening. And as part of that, you can download as a PDF the School of Law brochure, and you'll see here just from the table of contents that there are different sections about the different degree programs, and there's sections about student life and student societies and the internship possibilities, study abroad, and so on. So that information is there, and we will be taking questions and queries later on in this evening's session. So do feel free to pop any questions that you have into the Q&A box, and my colleague Una is going to moderate a discussion later on. So Una, I think I'm going to stop my screen share and pass the baton back to you. Thank you. Okay, thanks Una.
Thank you, Dr. Howland. I hope everyone found that interesting and a really good starting point now for hearing from our students of what they're going to say. Normally, as the Dean mentioned, we'd be welcoming you to our lovely modern law school and for open evening, and you'd be offered tours of the building and the campus. But obviously the current circumstances won't allow for this. But if you're not familiar with the school, I suggest you go to our website or to our YouTube channel and watch our video. That gives a really good idea of what the facilities we have. You can also book a virtual tour on the MyUCD website, or your school could actually book an in-person tour for you all for a group, a class to come. So I strongly suggest you consider doing that at some point, just to get an idea of the UCD campus and the law building in particular, which is actually a terrific building, as you will see if you watch the video. So I know most of you are in your final year and you're looking at your CAO choices now. So even if you've already decided that you want to study law, which I hope you have, you'll be trying to make the decision. We've got 10 degrees. You'll be trying to decide which one is most appropriate for you. And it's for this reason we've invited 5 students to talk about their individual programs. Now, obviously, that means that there are 5 that we won't be discussing in any great detail this evening. But I would strongly suggest, again, that you go to our YouTube channel, the UCD Sutherland School of Law YouTube channel, and we have we've a selection of videos there. If you go to a playlist called Law Degree Options, you'll find out about all the programs that aren't covered. So that would be law with French law, law with Chinese, law with history, law with politics, and law with, I think that's all, the other 5, yeah. So if you still have any questions anyway, please do email us after this on our website or our email address, which is uglaw@ucd.ie, or go to the MyUCD website and there's an opportunity to ask questions there also. So what I'm going to do now is ask our 5 students to introduce themselves, and then each of them will speak about their degrees. So I'm going to start with Carla. Hi, Carla. You want to introduce yourself, and then all the others will introduce themselves afterwards.
Great, thanks so much, Una. Hello, everybody. It's great to see that there's so many of you here. My name is Carla Fishardi-Wallace. I am in a final year BCL program, so that's law by itself, and I'm from Wexford.
Hi everyone, my name's Jack. I'm a business and law student. I'm in second year and I'm from Dublin.
Hi everyone, my name is Larissa Mert and I am in my final year doing law with philosophy, and I'm from Dublin.
Hello everyone, my name is Garrod and I'm from County Meath, and I am in final year at law with Irish.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Kennedy. I'm in my final year of law and social justice and I'm from County Mayo.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, I'm going to hand over to the students now, and they're going to talk about how they're finding their individual degrees. So I'm going to start again with you, Carla, if you want to start talking about your degree, and then follow them by all the others. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So, of course, all of you here have an interest in law, which is incredible to see. I think I knew from about the age of 16 that I was interested in studying law, so kind of transition year stage. Of course, I watched the legal dramas like Dr. Howland was mentioning, but I was very involved in school in things like student council and curious about the world around me. And when I thought about the people who inspired me most, such as Mary Robinson, Nelson Mandela, law was such a common denominator in so many of their backgrounds. So I thought, if I'm going to start somewhere, that'll be a good place to start. And thankfully, I was right about that, because I love studying law very much. And I was fascinated by just the variety of degrees available at UCD. And when I came to the campus on a school tour, I knew straight away that this would be the place for me. So then when it came to deciding the specific route, I chose law on its own because it gives me the widest access to all of the law modules on offer at the law school, and because that was the aspect in which I was most interested in. And it's worth taking some time to think about those options, but as already been answered in the Q&A, you do have the option to change around if you're not 100% sure for your CAO. But yeah, I knew law was for me. And even on the point that Dr. Howland mentioned about access to the law school, I'm the first in my family to go to college. As a student, I've been supported by Susie, by the higher education access route. And the law school is such a supportive place for anybody who comes from those like non-traditionally university law attending backgrounds. And there's a place in UCD called the Access and Lifelong Learning Centre, which is an incredible support to all students, not those who come from, not only, if you come from a socioeconomic lower background or anything like that, but that aspect of UCD and the law school has been an incredible support to me. So absolutely, it is a university and a law school for everybody. I'm in the quite fortunate position of finding all of the degree very interesting, particularly areas like constitutional law and family law, because they really give you a sense of how the law affects the lives of real people on a daily basis. A lot of it is dense and can be complicated, but at the end of the day, this is affecting the lives of every single person, and that's what I find incredibly interesting. And when you find it interesting, it's so much easier to engage with that, a bit more challenging material. And in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges of studying law is actually also one of the biggest advantages. The law is more often than not set in stone, and we as law students are encouraged to analyze it and to question it and to assess our own opinions, which can be scary at first because that's so different from the way that you learn traditionally in secondary school. But as time goes on, you start to see yourself beginning to think like a lawyer and to look at things differently and to really engage with the stuff we're learning about. And so all the hours you put in at the library, become to be worth it. And then even following from that, it's so true that college life, you get out of it exactly what you put into it. And I'm in a really fortunate position that I entered the university from the Leaving Certificate and was offered the UCD Ad Astra Scholarship for Performing Arts. So if you haven't heard of Ad Astra before, it's the university's flagship scholarship program, and it offers scholarships in the areas of academics, in elite sports and performing arts, which is split between theatre practice and music, classically trained musicians. And so I'm in it as a drama scholar, so I'm an actor and a director in that. And it's just one of the most wonderful aspects of my student life. And I think that the fact that UCD and the law school is willing to support students to not only pursue their academic, careers to the highest degree possible, but also, your extracurricular passions that, are equal in your interests and in your commitment. And so I've had the wonderful opportunity to perform in theatres across Dublin as a part of the Ad Astra Academy. In a couple of weeks' time, I'll be directing a recorded performance in honour of the Irish writer George Bernard Shaw in the National Gallery. And all of this is done with the full support of the law school. Faculty members have attended our performances, and we have the support of dedicated academic mentors. And so I'm so grateful to be able to pursue those two things together. And so really, what I hope you might take from that is, if there is anything about yourself or in your life that might open up opportunities for scholarships or bursaries or anything at all, really do take the time to look into those. They do take time and effort to apply for and to research, but you have nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. I have gained so much from my experiences. And then in addition to that, I've been involved in things like the Drama Society. I've been on committee with the Law Society. And I think that all really just shows that while the work can be intense, you do have time to have a great student life as well. There are so many things that you can get involved in, especially when you're doing things that you really, really enjoy. And the law school is just an incredible place to balance on that and really, encourages a well-rounded student experience. So I suppose it's always a tricky question to ask students what you want to do after you leave college. Sometimes it seems, oh gosh, what am I, what should I do? What should I say? But for me personally, I intend to practice as a barrister, which essentially means, advocating in court. This will require further study when I graduate from UCD this year. Scary times. My family jokes that I want to do this because it's the crossover between drama and law, and I guess that's not completely untrue. But before that anyway, I'd like to gain experience as a judicial assistant. And these are people who work in the courts and assist judges with any research and associated tasks to get a real first-hand experience of what active research is like and what life is like inside the courts. And what's incredible about studying law is there are so many career opportunities available to you. And so, you really have the opportunity to look around and see what you're really interested in. And that's been an exciting kind of journey over the past 4 years for me. And a lot of that genuine interest can be traced back to those people, like I was mentioning, that inspired me to study law in the first place, most particularly Mary Robinson. I admired her for both her legal and political careers and her own activism. And one of my fondest memories of the law degree was when I had the opportunity to hear her speak, and then to meet her when she came to give a talk on climate justice in the law school. I was completely starstruck and so grateful that being a law student at UCD offered us that experience to meet these, giants of, modern Irish legal and political history. So it's just an incredible place to be. And then more recently, I've been exposed to great lawyers' work, such as a woman called Dr. Maeve O'Rourke, who's an Irish human rights lawyer, most known for her work in the Justice for Magdalene's campaign, an academic, a barrister, and she's a sign to law students that there's still so much work to be done in achieving justice both in Ireland and further afield. And we as law students are best placed to get involved in achieving that, and that is possible from our very early beginnings as law students. So it's a very inspiring place to be. And so I thought finally something I'd like to mention is that, so when I work for UCD as a student ambassador, we'd be the people that will give you your school tour, and hopefully you get to come visit the campus if you haven't already. And I met a student who was interested in studying law, but really worried he wouldn't be suited to it because his favourite subjects were maths and physics. And so, of course, writing and reading, all that are in English, are core elements of studying law, but so are analytical thinking and problem solving. And so I was delighted to be able to tell this student that at the time, the Chief Justice, who was the most senior judge in Ireland, Frank Clark, studied maths and economics at UCD before pursuing a legal career. So law really is for everybody. And if there's a seed inside of you that feels like you might enjoy it, I'd really encourage you to follow it. And I'm sure my colleagues here will just kind of push that forward even more. So yeah, happy to answer questions, and I hope you found some of that information helpful.
So hi everyone, I'm a business and law student and I'm in second year. So it was only 2 years ago when I was in your position filling out my CAO, and I really just wasn't sure if I wanted to go down the law route or the business route. In transition year, I was lucky enough to do a work experience in one of the big law firms in Ireland and one of the big accounting firms. So that gave me an insight into both professions, but it nearly made my decision more difficult because I couldn't decide which one I preferred. So when I found out about business and law in UCD, it looked like the perfect degree for me. It's a double major degree, which means that after 4 years, you graduate with a major in business and a major in law, leaving you with options to pursue a career in either discipline. And then when I investigated further, I saw the rankings of UCD Sutherland School of Law, which is one of the top 100 in the world. The Quinn School of Business is the only triple accredited business school in Ireland. So this really just made it a no-brainer in choosing UCD. And then as an added bonus, both schools are situated right beside each other on campus in modern state-of-the-art buildings. So they're nice, and the lectures are nice and warm compared to some other buildings on campus. Business and law is a 4-year degree, and you have the option to go for a semester abroad in third year. Some possible destinations include Sydney, Brisbane, Barcelona, Madrid, and the colleges which UCD has a partnership with are amongst the best in the world, so it's a great addition to your CV. I'd strongly recommend this course to anyone who's interested in business or law and just can't decide yet, because in secondary school you don't really get an opportunity to see what law is like. you kind of hear things, or you might do a work experience in transition year, but it's very difficult to see what it's like. So this course, if you're interested in both, would be perfect for you. And then just in terms of studying, this might come as a surprise given you're studying 2 disciplines, but you don't actually have that many in-class hours every week. However, like every law degree, there is a substantial amount of out-of-class reading you have to do, whether this be case law, legislation, articles, or books. This may sound slightly daunting, but I can assure you once you get into the rhythm of it, it gets easier over time. And then the business modules which you study do require different skills to the law modules. And I think this is where some people find business and law kind of challenging, because it is difficult going from writing a law essay to then doing an accounting module where you need maths and a completely different skill set. However, I do think this is where the true value of the course is. From the law aspect, you learn to think analytically and you have great advocacy skills. And then from the business side, you can show employers that you are strong numerically and financially literate. And then just UCD do provide supports in case you are worried about this. There's a math support center in the James Joyce Library, which I know is very useful for people. PhD math students will help you if you need anything. There's also an essay writing center if you're struggling with that side of things. You cover law topics such as contract law, tort law, criminal law, and business topics such as marketing, accounting, and economics. And then I think it is a big change going from secondary school to college. And one program which is very, very helpful is the peer mentor program. So this is a program where second or third year students, or even fourth year students, will volunteer to be a peer mentor, and they're assigned a group of first year students, roughly 8 to 10 people in total. Each group, so when you're first year, you can WhatsApp message your peer mentor. They help you if you have any questions about anything in college, whether this be about referencing a law essay or if you want to get involved in a society. They'll have the experience to help you with this big change from college life, from secondary school to college life. And then also the Law Society is probably the biggest society, which I'd say nearly all of us here have been involved in some shape or form. There's comedy debates, there's more serious debates. Like yesterday, there's a debate about a United Ireland. After their debates, most people can get free slices of pizza. There's moot court competitions. So UCD really does just offer everything to you if you're interested in law. It has over 80 different societies, 60 different sports clubs. So I'm sure that there'll be something of interest to absolutely everyone here.
Hi everyone, so I'm Larissa, and like I said before, I'm in my final year of law with philosophy, and I just kind of want to talk to you a little bit about my experience these last 4 years. So I'd like to take you all back to the year of 2018, right at the beginning, when I was filling out my CAO, and I've always had UCD as my #1 choice, simply because I had heard such great things about the law school. So there was not a doubt in my mind that this is the place I wanted to be. And then I actually attended the open day, and that just really solidified it in my head as, no, like I really want to go there. But why law and philosophy in particular? Well, in terms of law, I've always sort of been drawn to it because I just loved debating in school, and I loved writing essays, and I just liked arguing with people and telling them that I was right. And that was fun. And in terms of philosophy, at the beginning, I didn't really know what philosophy was, and I went into it a little bit blindly. Just my tutor said I'd be good at it, and I kind of just trusted her on that. Now, it worked out great for me because I do love law with philosophy in particular, but I really do think I should have researched it a bit more, especially when I think about the fact that I switched from law with politics to law with philosophy just a few hours before the CAO closed, and that wasn't the greatest idea. it worked out in the long run, but it would just be my number one advice to really research it, especially considering that UCD has like so much information on the website and like specific modules that you'll be doing and everything. So that's something I'd advise you on. So I have been here for 4 years now, and I genuinely love my degree. And of course, there are times when things can be a bit tough. Everyone finds assignments and exam seasons quite stressful. But if there's one thing to say is that there's always support available. I particularly struggled in my second year, and I just went to my student advisor and she was so helpful, and we were able to sort something out that suited me. So people really do want you to do well. So even when things can get a bit tough, there's someone there to talk to, from the student union to the peer mentors that Jack mentioned. There's just a lot of staff available. I'd also say the lectures can be a bit scary at the beginning just because there are so many students that you start with, but there are tutorials that are also scheduled with less students, which makes it a bit easier and less daunting because you can kind of get to talk to other people. And just the lecturers here are just fantastic. And if I ever had questions, like they always gave me such detailed responses. Like I can't tell you the amount of times a lecturer stayed back just to explain to me something that I didn't understand. And it's one of my favorite things about UCD. Like just people really do want you to do well. And in particular, I want to say that law with philosophy complement each other incredibly well. Of course, I'm a little bit biased here, but it's just because philosophy has really made me think outside of the box. And whenever I approach a new legal subject, I am really able to look at it from a different perspective. So just to give you an example, in my second year, I did a module on feminist legal scholars as part of philosophy because feminism is a branch of philosophy. So then I was able to take what I studied there and go to like a constitutional lecture and think about legal aspects from a feminist legal theorist. And it just offers you it just really opens up your perspective on what you're studying in law. It was just fantastic. Now, outside of the classroom, there are so many societies in UCD and so many events that you can participate in. I am personally a commuter, so I did struggle a little bit in first year trying to balance all of that out. But once you find your groove, it's just things become so easy. And what I've personally done is I've tried a bit of everything, and then in my going forward for my second year, I just chose a few things that I feel really passionate about and just really stuck to them. So for example, something that really was big for me was the access office in UCD that Carla mentioned, because I went to their school, which is a school situated in a disadvantaged area. So I felt it was really important to me once I got into UCD to sort of help the community that I've come from. So for example, as part of that, I'm a future U mentor. So I'd be going out to schools and speak to 5th and 6th year students and sort of mentor them and get them excited about coming to college. I'm also an access leader, so I'd be helping out at events and stuff like that. And outside of that, I'm also writing an article for the Student Legal Service Journal, which is so exciting because I have like an editor and it all feels very, very professional. So that's great. And I also took part in an international mooting competition. And literally, we just got the email last week that we went through to the next rounds. And, it's just really exciting because we'll be representing UCD in Belgium, and that was all organized by UCD and by my lecturers. So that was just fantastic. And yeah, I'm trying to keep it so brief here, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. Honestly, it's like UCD never sleeps. There's always something to do, regardless of what you're interested in. Like so many sporting events. Just yeah, it's so much. So. When I finish, I hope to complete the FE1s and qualify as a solicitor. Now, I am incredibly lucky to have secured a training contract with the firm just based on my internship in the summer. but I really have to give credit where credit is due. I don't think I would have gotten that far had it not been for UCD, because I went to the careers office and they really, really helped me tailor my CV and my application. And I went to so many of their talks and events. And also shout out to the Law Society, the student led society. It's great as well, because they've organized so many similar events that was really catered to the students, and so many like trainees and lawyers got to come in and actually talk to us, which just made the whole process way less daunting. So many thanks to that as well. Yeah, and just before I finish, I just kind of want to say that, you know, I had so many anxieties before coming here. Like I said, I went to a small Dutch school. There was like about 300 of us there. And actually, I was the only one in my year to go to UCD, which was very scary considering that UCD has about 33,000 students. And I was the only, like, I didn't know anyone. I was really, really scared. And I was actually so worried that I'll just not make friends and I'll be alone. But everyone is so friendly here. And especially if you come into an alternative route, the Access Office has another sort of welcome before the general UCD welcome. So you kind of get 2 chances to come in and make friends. So that really helped things so much. So yeah, everyone is friendly here. You can go into a lecture and just sit down, talk to the person beside you, and then just make a new friend. And it's the same with going to society events. Like, you just get to know so many people, and then you don't even realize it until you walk from one lecture hall to the next, and you get stopped like 10 times and have like half an hour conversation, and you're slightly like late to your next lecture because you actually meet so many people. Yeah, I am very lucky to have come through the Access Office too, and everyone there is very, very supportive. And like I said, not every day is easy. You know, I have gone through a lot of personal growth myself, and, you know, ups and downs. But like I said, I just never felt alone in UCD, as big as it is. I've never felt alone. There was always someone that reached out to me and helped. And yeah, just want to say, studying here has really been a privilege, and I have been surrounded by incredibly smart teachers, amazing resources, the loveliest of people. And I'm just incredibly grateful that I'll soon become a UCD graduate. Yeah, thanks for listening to me.
Hello, so just to recap, my name is Garrod, and I'm a final year, 4th year Law with Irish student in UCD. But while a lot of people, they tend to choose law in UCD because of the law, I chose it because of the Irish. And I suppose was in secondary school, and I wanted to do Irish in college. And I was looking at some of the other courses, and, you know, I was thinking about politics, maybe geography, but nothing really grabbed my attention. And then my mom just said, what about law? And I just said I'd give it a chance. And I didn't really kind of think that much into it, I suppose. And to a certain extent, it sounded nice. And so I said, sure, look, I might as well give it a try. And then I suppose some people choose law because they are good at English in secondary school. And to a certain extent, it was probably my least favorite subject for the Leaving Cert. And I suppose I don't think it's actually brought me back or held me back by anything, because a legal or law essay tends to be very different to a personal essay or descriptive essay or a short story you'd write in secondary school. There are, of course, you know, similarities such as reading. But then, as someone else said, I think it might have been Carla or Jack, there's definitely analytical skills and critical skills that are that you may not be very much honed on or get honed on in secondary school. But I really enjoy my degree, and what I really enjoy about it especially is that you're connected to 2 schools. So with the law with subjects, I suppose you're connected to your law school as well as your with school. So mine is the Irish school. And through that, I have friends, I suppose, from both courses. And you end up doing modules in the like Irish modules, the grammar modules with art students. And then while they do literature modules, we do Irish legal translation modules. And I think those translation modules are really, really interesting, because through, I suppose, all the other modules in Irish, they tend to be quite informal, talking about speaking and writing. But with translation modules, you're using a higher register of language. Like law tends to be of quite a high register. You know, you don't often say someone shall do something, you know, and it's quite legalistic language. But I suppose what I really enjoy as well about it is that there's a difference in modules. So you know, you're going from let's say a conversation class in Irish straight to a law lecture, and it kind of just is a bit refreshing at the same time. But one, I suppose, little anxiety I had before I went into college was the size of the lectures. So there's 200 plus in some of the lecture halls. But I think what really benefits students is the structure of the courses. So I suppose the 200 or 200 plus is broken down between B&L, law with Irish, law with economics, law with politics, law with history. So you go in on day one, you're split really into your groups. Of course, everyone's in the same lecture hall, but you really get to know the people in your course. So I'm still really good friends with all the people in law with Irish in my year, and for some reason we're just really good friends with the law with economics people as well. But then I suppose a really big thing in my life in college is the Irish House. So there's I'm currently living on campus. It looks a bit dreary here in the back, but so I live in the Irish House, and it's a scholarship scheme where 24 students come to UCD, and I suppose we all just live on campus here together, and we all just speak Irish. It's just the tongue or the language of the house, and it's really good for social aspect. So I mean, there's nights out all the time, and there's an immediate group of friends, and then it is a scholarship scheme as well. So you do get a little bit of money as well, which when that does come in as a student, you'll be really happy. But then another thing with the Irish course as well is that you have 2 subsidised trips to the Gaeltacht, and not only are they great crack, it's also, I suppose, you do improve your Irish, and you really get to know people. But then I suppose even just relationships wise with, let's say, between my Irish lecturers and my law lecturers, they tend to be really different relationships, because in Irish you're in kind of small class groups and you end up having very kind of close enough relationships with your lecturers and your tutors, while in the law school, if you are in, let's say, a lecture hall with 200 plus, I suppose it can seem, I suppose, a little bit removed at first, even especially when you're coming from a secondary school background, where you might be in a group of you know, less than 30 people in the classroom. But it is a good point to note is that each lecture has lecture hours every week. So it's 2 hours that they have every week. Let's say on Wednesday 1 to 3. And if you have a problem, you know they will be in their office at that time. You can just knock on the door and just ask a question or ask for a clarification or something if you need to be, if you need to. And just note as well is that I don't come from a Gael school or an Irish speaking background or a Gaeltacht. The majority of people in my course don't. So you're kind of coming into the law school, into the Irish school, I suppose at a level that it's not like our lectures are true Irish, you know, it's not like we're doing banking law or, you know, it's something very highfalutin, true Irish. But then I suppose going into the future as well, it's really, I suppose, broad what you can do. And I suppose it's an opportunity, but it's also difficulty, the amount of choices you have. Myself, I'm thinking about translation in the EU. And then I know other girls in my course, they have, one has like a contract with a large firm in town, another is thinking about becoming like a high street solicitor. So just in a regional town doing buying and selling property in Wales, etc. And it's a really good point to note is that Irish is now an official EU language. So it's on the same level as German, French, Spanish, etc. And that, I suppose, is really good, I suppose, for jobs. And I know that a lot of Leaving Cert students might be thinking about it, but if there's any parents on here, that's what you want to hear. So I suppose you can go down the law route to become a solicitor or barrister, or you can go down the Irish route in translation, or the course actually qualifies you, as I've found out, to become an Irish and politics teacher as well. Another point to note is the civil service. I don't know if you have any interest in that, but if you do, By 2030, that there's a need for 20% of all civil servants to have a competency in Irish. I don't know if you're thinking about jobs into the future yet, but that's definitely something just to keep in mind. But I'm just going to keep my kind of segment nice and short, and I'll hand you on to Laura.
Perfect. Hi everyone. Sorry if I sound a bit funny. I actually have COVID at the moment, so I hope you can all hear me okay. So yeah, I'll just jump right into it. So as I said before, my name's Laura. I'm from Mayo and I study law and social justice. So as someone from rural Ireland, I always knew I wanted to, I suppose, get out of the country into the city. So I always thought Dublin would be for me. When I looked into studying law, I knew UCD was ranked very highly. I'd heard a lot of great things, a lot of great different course options. So I came to the general open day when I was in my Leaving Cert year. And then I came to the kind of law specific day and I was just completely blown away by the campus and by the lectures and like the high standard of everything, and just also how nice everyone was between lectures and students and staff. It was just great. So I'm almost 4 years in now, as hard as that is to believe, and I genuinely do love my degree. With COVID, it's obviously been, I suppose, a different experience to the traditional experience, but overall it's been incredible. So I suppose what would be quite interesting about my degree is, I think for me, definitely the range of modules. So in first and second year, I suppose you kind of study all the same things, but then once you get to third and fourth year, there's such a wide range of things that you can choose, and I suppose you can tailor the degree to things you're interested in. So this year I studied things like internet law, child protection law, criminal justice, social policy, stuff that I never kind of saw myself studying, but it's just been so interesting. What's great about UCD also is the practical elements to different modules. So I think when you think of studying law, you think of kind of books and libraries and lectures, but it's so much more than that. So here we've got a mooting module, and we've also got a human rights education module, which I did this year, which is fantastic. So you do, I think, 6 weeks of kind of theory in class, and then you design a curriculum, you're in a group, and then you go out into a local secondary school and teach a class in human rights, which was amazing. I really, really enjoyed that. And you've also got a legal placement module, which I did myself also. I'll speak about that a bit later. You've also got Erasmus. I was actually meant to go to Belgium, but of course, once again, COVID happened. I suppose in what's difficult, I suppose mainly it is, I suppose, a very different style of learning to the Leaving Cert, and that can take getting used to, but I do think that you adapt very quickly. Of course, there's a lot of reading. I feel like that's always the big kind of thing that people are really worried about, but I really don't think it's anything that bad. I think I've survived it, the other 4 have survived it. I think if you're in the course, you really are able for it, and there's so much supports there if you need help or if you're struggling. As Garage was saying, there's definitely less of a personal connection with lecturers, as opposed to teachers, I suppose, which can be a big kind of jump. I know my mom taught me in school, so I found it very strange coming to college and not knowing any lectures. But again, as Garage was saying, they all have their own office hours, which is great, so you can kind of go and talk to them. And as I think it was Larissa that said, they're all lovely, like excuse me, and they're all great. So there's definitely nothing to be worried about. I think overall with my own degree, law with social justice, it's really, really just very dynamic. You can really put your own spin on the degree. Social justice doesn't have any exams, which is great. It's all essay based, whereas law is exam based, which is actually, it's obviously very handy for time management point of view, but also just different styles of learning. If you're someone that isn't really into traditional exams, social justice kind of looks at it as a different style of learning, which is really interesting. And also there's so many guest lectures and talks, which is brilliant as well. So then I suppose outside of my degree, in UCD, volunteering in societies have played such a huge role in my own experience, and it's the one thing I always say about UCD I couldn't recommend more. The people I live with I met through societies, not my own degree, which is just hilarious, but it's also great, I suppose. So I've been on the committees of the Law Society, St Vincent de Paul, the LNH, and the Student Legal Service. They've given me such a wealth of incredible opportunities. I chaired a house debate in the Fitzgerald Chamber. I travelled around the country debating, which I wasn't very good at, but it was very fun to do all the same. I was a finalist in a negotiation competition. I interviewed Louise O'Neill and President of the High Court Mayor Irvine, which was incredible, and again, very starstruck, but it was such an amazing thing to be able to do. I also planned an anti-racism week and coordinated a homeless week with St Vincent de Paul, which again was amazing. I was due to travel to Tanzania with UCD Volunteers Overseas, which is another amazing organisation. Once again, another thing that was pulled because of COVID, but I was able to help out with a virtual volunteering programme, which is amazing. So as a result of all of this, I was given the UCD President's Award, which is basically in recognition of contribution to, I suppose, campus life and extracurriculars, which I really was kind of proud of, because it shows that UCD really does value extracurriculars, and they don't want you to just be a student in the classroom. They want you to be a student, I suppose, of life, and to get involved in everything that the campus has to offer. And there really is just so much to get involved in. And then within law, I did an internship with the Irish Refugee Council in June of this year, which again was amazing. Once again, it was virtual, but it was incredible, and I couldn't have done that without the help of the law school. What I want to do, so I'm just going to grab some water. My throat is very dry. They really don't mess around with the COVID symptoms. What I want to do myself after I leave college, again, a very terrifying question to think about. I'm currently applying for a master's, so I'd love to study something either in criminal justice, family and child law, or in human rights. Again, these are all things I was able to kind of study in more detail because of the modules that were on offer. I then hope to qualify as a solicitor in one of these areas, so I would do my FE1s or go into academia. But then because of social justice, I could also work in policy or advocacy in an NGO or anything like that. I'm really into women's rights and children's rights. I'm hoping to maybe get work experience there also. So yeah, I think just overall, I suppose, to kind of begin to wrap up, I love the idea with law that you really are making a difference. And I think law is such a powerful tool that you can bring about change. And I think especially studying with social justice, you're kind of, by just studying both concepts in tandem, you kind of really look at one with a different perspective, and it's really quite inspiring. And I suppose you can see that the law affects people in different ways, and that there's so much, I suppose, structural inequality, and I have so much of a better understanding of that now because of my study of this degree. And I suppose finally, to wrap up, I was kind of thinking back to when I was your age and things I was worried about. And I think the main thing I was really worried about was kind of not fitting in, or I suppose feeling like a bit of an imposter, because I suppose law is seen as such a prestigious thing. But I suppose the one thing I'd say, and it probably applies to any degree, is, you know, if you get in, you know, you absolutely deserve to be here. It's so easy to feel out of place and to compare yourself to others and to think everyone's doing better than me. But like, really, I think we're all just figuring it out. Like, I think just focus on yourself and don't worry about how others are doing, because I think we all worry that we're not doing enough or that everyone else is doing better. But really, like, it's an incredible degree, and even getting to that stage is wonderful. And also think making friends is another big worry. So for me, I'm such an introvert. I'm very shy. I definitely find it quite difficult to kind of get to know people, but I think everyone's in the same boat. I suppose talk to people in your tutorials, your peer mentor groups, just put yourself out there. Society events, again, are incredible to meet people more than anything. But yeah, that's all I have to say. So I probably won't get to ever see any of you if you do come to UCD, because I'm very old and I'll have graduated. But best of luck, and yeah, hope everything works out for you anyways. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. That was great. Now, we're actually just beyond 6 o'clock, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask a couple of questions. Most of you have been typing your questions into the Q&A box, which we've been answering. Now, a lot of the questions were very general. They weren't specifically about any of the specific programs that the students have spoken about this evening. So we've answered them as we were going along. But there's a couple of questions I'm just going to put to one or two of the students who are still here, and then we'll wrap up, because I know an hour is a very long time to have to listen to us all talking here. We will have a recording of this, and I'll be putting it up onto our YouTube channel by Friday anyway. So if you want to listen back to what everyone is saying or watch any of our other videos, it will be on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to start off with just a quick question. We always get asked this about business and law. Jack, people are always anxious about maths. I know there's a maths requirement, but just how good do you need to be at maths, or how important is maths to the business and law degree?
Well, like if you get the basic requirements that you need to get into the course, then you should be fine. The Maths Support Centre is very useful for people, but like the most difficult maths that I've had to do so far is a small bit of differentiation, but the rest has been just kind of accounting or addition and subtraction. So
great. Okay, thanks, Jack. Okay, and then there's a question, and it's a kind of very broad question, and I'm going to put it to Larissa. Is people say, you know, if you do law with another subject, does it take away from studying your law modules? And I guess that kind of is, people feel that maybe they're not getting, you know, a full law degree if they do, say, with, in your case, law with philosophy. So would you mind answering that?
Yeah, of course. You see, the way that UCD offers the modules in first and second year, everyone does the sort of like basic modules. So you will get the basic modules done required for like the ones or to become a barrister. And it's in third and fourth year, if there's any extra requirement, you get to pick. So, but they really help with that. And they tell you all the basics that you need. So everyone has the necessities to qualify either as a solicitor, barrister, or any other kind of job. So it doesn't actually take away, your minor doesn't take away from that. And also it's divided in a way where you do mostly law modules anyway. So again, it doesn't actually take away from doing law as much as you might think. And like I said, a lot of the modules that you do in your minor actually correlate very, very well with law. So for example, like I was saying, I did philosophy of law, and then in the law school I'm doing jurisprudence, which are very, very similar, but they were given by one was given by the School of Philosophy and one by the School of Law. So they're very connected. So I don't feel like I've missed anything. In fact, I feel like I've actually studied even more, because like I said, it really does give you a much more in-depth sort of angle on law, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks, Larissa. Now, I know Laura's voice isn't great, but because of her current circumstances, but I just have a quick question for you, Laura, just to say, you know, you talked with great passion there about social justice, and I know at any time you ever speaks to law with social justice students, they're always so passionate about the other subjects. But is it true that many of the law with social justice students actually often then decide to go and pursue a career as a solicitor? What I'm saying is you aren't limited by law with social justice. In actual fact, you've got more options in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we're such an annoying bunch because all we do is ever talk about how much we love social justice. But no, definitely, I think a lot of us do go into law, but I suppose it's a different area of law than maybe your standard corporate. Like, I know a girl I know is now practicing with like an immigration firm or like refugee or asylum law, like that kind of stuff, maybe as opposed to the kind of standard corporate or property or anything like that. But really, yeah, you're not limited at all, or you could even work as this was a legal advisor in like a non-governmental agency. So yeah, I think you're given so many more options, and maybe that kind of different perspective that maybe would give you another kind of a way into working into something that you're interested in, but with law. Sorry, I'm not sure how much sense that made, but no, definitely I wouldn't say you're limited at all by it. If anything, I think your experience is so much more enhanced because of kind of the unique perspective you've gained by studying social justice.
Thanks, Laura. That's great. I noticed people are raising their hands. If you want to type your questions into Q&A, that's probably the best thing for us at this stage. I have a question for Garrod, and that is, somebody was just asking about how much of your degree is taught through Irish.
Yeah, so no law module is taught through Irish. So we do all of our law modules with law of politics, law of history, etc. So that means there's really good choice as well, actually, of modules. But then it's the Irish grammar and the Irish translation that's taught through Irish. So it's say between 15 and 20%, up to 25%, maybe some years. The modules are taught through Irish, but they'd be Irish specific modules. No law modules are taught through Irish. I think it'll be a daunting task for anyone.
Yeah, I suppose the reality is law with French law is such a different degree. We haven't spoken about it in any great length tonight, but actually there are modules taught through French, but that's because they're French law. And you're taught through French, which makes it quite different to the law with Irish degree. Again, I would direct you to our YouTube channel, where we have a very good recording about law with French law, if you're interested in that particular subject, or email us, as I said, on uglaw@ucd.ie, or go to My UCD, where there's an opportunity to ask questions. So my final question, last but not least, I have a question for Carla. Somebody actually asked this and you typed an answer, but I think it's worth finishing with, because you know, you're such a fantastic bunch of students. You're all, in spite of what Laura says about being introverted, you strike me all as being so extroverted and so confident and so capable. But of course, you've all been here a few years, and I think that helps. I mean, like your first week in your first term would have been quite different. But Carla, anyway, the question was, do you need to be? Somebody said that they're quite shy, and how do you think they will manage in law?
I mean, being extroverted is absolutely not necessary to enjoy law or to study law. As we've all mentioned, even in a group of 5 people here, there's such a diversity in our interests and our experiences, even though we're all studying very similar topics. Yes, there are opportunities for public speaking in the student-run societies, and also in advocacy modules, or in modules where class presentations are a core aspect of the assessment, but that's not at all necessary. And really my advice would be not to worry really about things like that, because studying law and going to university is a really great growing experience, and you never know the difference in yourself that might be from when we were all little first years coming up to now almost graduating. So it's absolutely not necessary. Law can be for everybody. And there are more aspects of law that don't require speaking than do. It's great if you enjoy the speaking element, but like I said, it's not a hindrance whatsoever. And I really would encourage you not to let it hold you back in any way.
Great, thank you so much, Carla. That's great answer. Somebody just texted a question there about if they did business and law, would it be possible to do a postgraduate in human resource management? The reality is with a lot of law degrees and business and law degrees is that they're a terrific foundation for lots of careers. And we would have many graduates in, the likes of human resources, or in NGOs, or working in diplomacy. We have a couple of ambassadors who studied law degrees. So it's actually a really good broad degree. It's a foundation for so many other directions, let's say, in life. You don't have to, I think we hope we made that clear tonight, that you don't have to just want to be either a solicitor or a barrister. There are so many other routes that you have 4 years to make up your mind about which direction you want to go in. And yes, of course, you can then do postgraduate studies in a specific area if that's your specific choice. So I'm going to finish up there now, because we're at nearly 6:15, and I'm sure it's tiring listening to all of this after a day in school. As I mentioned, we'll be uploading the video to our YouTube channel. If you haven't got a copy of our brochure, here it is. Download it from our website, which is ucd.ie/law. Or you could just email us on uglaw@ucd.ie. We'll either send you a PDF, or if you give us your address, we'll post it to you. Thank you all for watching. Best of luck with your college choices and your exams. We hope to see you in September. And just one final word, I thank you so much to all of the students for giving your time and for all your great preparation. And I mean, I enjoy these evenings so much because I really enjoy listening to what you all have to say. You're an absolute inspiration, and you're an absolute credit to UCD, to law, and to this country. So I wish you all the very best of luck. I'm sure I'll see you all over the next few months, those of you that are graduating this year. But anyway, I've really enjoyed listening to you all this evening. Thank you, everyone, and good evening.